Okay, welcome back live again from America Fest 2022. And with me in the hot seat is Steve Stern. Steve, you start out looking at election integrity in Broward County, Florida. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we actually got involved in precinctstrategy.com. And what happened was about 3 years ago, Dan Schultz, who wrote the book on why people should join the executive committees around the country, and he saw me on one of the programs, then he got me on Bannon's program, and Steve liked what I was saying. What it is there's 240,000 slots available for people in the Republican Party to join. We have about 180,000 when we first started. We moved up to 240. Now there's 400,000 slots. So we're short about 160,000. We're here at Turning Point to try to get some of the young people involved because I'm 81. I've been in business 68 years. I own the flagshirt.com. About 8 or 9 years ago, I started talking to people and telling them, thank you for the order that you placed. And we started talking and we found out they're Republicans. So 90% of my customers were Republicans. They love the country. I was wondering why Democrats hated the country because they weren't buying the shirts and being patriotic. So we got heavily involved in Broward County, and we brought our executive committee from 120 to 300. And I started thinking, well, why don't we do this all around the country? So we get on every program and we ask people how to get involved, what they can do, and I would put my name up, my email, and they would call me, and we'd get anywhere from 50 to 500 calls. And they would say, well, how do we get involved? And what do we do? So it's funny that we have 60 million Republican voters, and we got 240,000 people involved. So where are the rest of the people? So that's my job. So I'm on every show trying to get people involved because they're sitting on their butts complaining about what's happening in the country, what Joe Biden is doing. The border is open. So I got involved with everybody from Lindell to President Trump to General Flynn. Didn't make any difference who it was. I called him and asked him, do you know what precinctstrategy.com is? Most of them said no. So I called Lindell cold, and he said, do I know you? I said, no. I said, so why are you calling? I said, well, do you know what precinctstrategy.com is?
So I'm a precinct committee woman. Hey, Charlie! Thanks for the shout out. So I'm a precinct committeeman. I've been one since 2004 in Milton Township in DuPage County, which used to be a very Republican county. I mean, it's really hard, it feels like, to get people to become a precinct committeeman. Is that what the precinct strategy is about, or
Yes.
am I incorrect?
No. So what we did was we decided, Bannon about a year ago asked me to get success stories involved. So we got every other Tuesday at 8 o'clock, we have 50 to 200 people on from all over the United States. So just to give an example, what can happen? We have a girl in New Jersey who started a club 9 months ago with 9 people. How many do you think she has now? Give a guess.
20?
92,000.
Oh my gosh.
So here's a great thing. She said 20 people. Well, we got 92,000. Well, somebody's doing something. It's called Common Sense Club. Well, duh. We got to think about what
I got to
common
tell you,
sense
though,
is.
is this the precinct strategy that you're talking about? Is it working through the Republican Party, or is it working around the Republican Party? Because, like you said, there are a number of groups that I can point out. The Warriors group, for example, which is attempting to go nationwide. There's a lot of other groups that are just sprouting up. And my favorite groups that are sprouting up are these parent groups that are basically dedicated to taking over their school boards. But they're working... they're not working through the Republican Party. They're working around the Republican Party, and they're gathering Republican support when they can get it, of course, but they're bigger than the Republican Party. Why is it? What's wrong with the Republican Party? You've got a huge national fight going on about who's going to be the chairperson.
Correct. So
are you working through or around the Republican Party?
So I'm working with Mike Lindell to take over the Republican Party.
Okay.
So, yeah, what's happened is Ronna McDaniels didn't even know there was a Republican Party that are committee men and committee women, because she never calls us. I've called her 20 times, never returned the call. So our job is to get rid of her, let everybody know that we have committee men and committee women, just like you said, and how we can do it. So we talk to everybody every 2 weeks, and we let them report what's happening, whether it's Hawaii or New Mexico or Delaware, because people had no idea what's going on in each state. So I went to visit President Trump here about 2 days before the election, and I got a 45-minute sit down with him, and we talked about a lot of things. One, he endorsed one of my candidates, General Bolduc, up in New Hampshire,
Mm-hmm.
and General Major Malloy in
How is it?
Vermont.
You know, speaking of that, how is it we have incredible people like General Bulldog not get elected?
Okay,
What
so
the heck?
what happened there was, I tell you the truth, I've never endorsed anybody in my life. I got on New Hampshire radio and endorsed them because how many guys go from a private to a general? Not many. And he went door to door for 2 years. Now, why he lost? Because McConnell spent $5 million to degrade him, and Sununu did the same thing. So when you have guys shooting out junk in our Republican Party, and that's some of the things we're doing. We're trying to knock the rhinos out, the establishment people. So this just happened in Florida. We had elections. This time of the year we have elections, and we had a lot of MAGA people get elected as chairman. We knocked out a lot of these guys who, didn't want to let people in. So you would think it would be easy to get in, and they're knocking out a lot of people.
It's not. Even at my
Correct.
local level, they have rejected certain friends of mine to be a precinct committeeman. Are you crazy? You have a vacancy in that precinct. Of course we're going to get good people in.
100%.
I don't understand.
Well, so now it's changing in a lot of areas. That's why we have everybody on every other week. Doesn't matter what state, Illinois, where you are. We have a couple of good girls there. Massachusetts, we opened up 15 new town committee people, which we never had before, 2,500
Great.
in Massachusetts. New England, everywhere we're booming.
Okay, can I tell you why I think this is important? Because as a committeeman and as somebody who's been involved in election integrity issues in the state of Illinois, deeply involved in this issue, I think that actually the precinct committeeman is the key to election integrity. And that is really a matter of knowing your precinct, knowing your neighbors, knowing who is living behind that door legitimately, and cleaning up the voter rolls through that process. And it has to happen before election, and it has to happen after election. Because in Illinois, at least, we had literally thousands of people that were removed from the voter rolls after just months after having voted in a major general election. What's going on there? The only way you find out about what's going on is if you knock on that door and you find out who's living there.
100%. So I'm glad you said that because I got the bright idea after I saw President Trump to have election integrity Zoom meeting. We got 40 of the top people in the United States around, Cleta Mitchell's people, Lindell's people, Defend Florida with Raj. And Raj put out a whole thing, and exactly what you're saying. He says, the reason why I want to work with you is because you're doing precinct committee man. We got to do the same thing for election integrity.
Absolutely.
So we had a great meeting, and now we had another meeting with 60 people, and we had more information dispersed between everything. Now we're going to have one January 10th with 100 people. And what we're going to try to do is get what can be done, because we all know what's happening, but nobody's doing anything.
Right.
So it's my job to get everybody together, and that's what I do. Once we get everybody together, we keep talking to them continuously till we get the right answer, because we got data people, and we know that Lindell did all this data, and everybody watched it, and we knew the election was stolen.
Right, and by the way, Lindell's booth is right across this aisle from us. He's right there. They've been interviewing all sorts of really great people.
Well,
Yep.
So Lindell, I've been on Lindell's show numerous times. We talked for about 45 minutes. One of the things I had him do, I got him together with my Minnesota guy and said, Mike, if you're going to take over the Republican Party, let's start with Minnesota. So we got a guy named Penn there, David Penn, who owns a huge tire company. He's put his life aside on the tires. He's still working, but he's started to take over the Minnesota Republican Party. So I got him on the phone with Mike. We had a three-way conversation, and we asked Mike to get involved with the Minnesota Party. He said, that's a great idea. So I said, if you're going to take over the Republican Party, why don't you at least take over Minnesota? So he said, that's a great idea. So, I have great ideas. Now we got to get them to execute.
Well, Steve, so tell our listeners, because we're going to be putting out this broadcast, and in fact, we're live right now. Tell us how they can get involved in the Precinct Project. What's the best way to connect with you and your organization?
So the first thing, you can go to www.precinctstrategy.com. That's the first thing. Go on the website. It's played all the time on every show we're out. When RAV shows the thing, they immediately show everything about precinct strategy. Dan Schultz has a terrific website. Or you could call me at 954-318-6902. That's 954-318-6902. I'll be glad to answer every question. And what I do is put you together with the people in each state so you're able to get in contact and find out how to get involved. If not, go to theflagshirt.com. We have all kind of people helping us with that. We've taken a lot of our company and asked them to help, because if we don't take over the country, getting 15 million people through the border, we're going to be in trouble. I also work with Tom Trento on the border. We had a big thing at Mar-a-Lago where we raised $400,000. And a lot of people say to me when I'm on, how do you do all this? My dad just said, do it, and that's what I'm doing.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. Appreciate
Thank you very much.
All right.